This is one of the biggest reasons HVAC companies, electrical and plumbing, lose money because they don't typically do job costing. Now, in some of the other Know Your Numbers videos, I teach you how to create your price, how to create your price book, how to read your profit and loss document. In this video, we're going to talk about job costing. There are two big things that a lot of companies miss when they check to see if they made money. I'm going to show you the two big ones. But first, we're going to start with basic job costing, the way most companies do it, and then I'll walk you through the two things most people miss. Okay, this is a typical job here. This is an install that was priced at, let's say this job is priced at $11,000. Okay, changed out an air handler, a condenser, or let's say you changed out some plumbing stuff, or you're an electrician, you rewired the house, whatever. Okay, so installing a new AC system, charged $11K. You job cost and you say, okay, I spent $20 in gas, no big deal. My equipment was $4,500. The machines that I'm installing cost me $4,500. Paid a subcontractor $800 to come help, and spent $50 on materials, which is probably not that realistic. If we bought a pad and some line set and everything, we might be spending a little closer to $200. Okay. All right. We spent $5,500. Now, you remember when I taught you in the other Know Your Numbers videos that the cost of goods, all your materials and your equipment and labor and everything should be under 40%. So we're already high, right? But we're not, let me not get ahead of myself. Okay. So we say, boom, spent $5,500. I paid myself $35 an hour. It took me 10 hours to do the job if you're a solo person. Or you might say, well, I had a technician on there. It took him 5 hours to do the startup or something. All right. So I spent $175. I didn't pay a salesman any commission. So let's put that at 0. All right. Total cost of goods, 51%. All right. I'm making on this install $5,300, right? That's a lot of money. I charged $11,000. I made $5,300. Did you? Let's see what we're typically missing here. All right. First of all, you have to put your owner's salary in there. How much is your owner's salary? Typical HVAC company owner salary is about 10%. So remember, your salary is coming out of every job. So if we put our owner's salary in there, that takes out $1,100 because, of course, we're going to pay ourselves. Now we're at 38% net profit. What about our general expenses, our insurance, all of that stuff? Now, I'm going to do a shortcut here because a typical overhead, even if you're a small one-man, two-man company, your typical overhead is around 25 to 30%. So that's everything you have to pay other than the machine, other than the labor. If you have someone answering the phone, or if you have insurance, you have a car payment, you have a shop payment, you have advertising, all of that stuff that you have to grow your business. You have to have it. Typically is about 30%. And we don't account for that. So let's see, we put our overhead in there. Now our net profit is a lot lower than we thought. If you want to grow a business, you have to account for your overhead in every single price. You can't say, well, I just go by word of mouth, because you can't grow a company just by word of mouth. Eventually, you're going to want to get some door hangers so when things are slow, you can pass those out. You're going to want to run some Facebook ads and get some leads here and there and not worry about, if they don't work in the first month or 2 months that you're going to go broke. You want to have the money there to let that run, get some branding going on, get the Google ads running for long enough. You want to have some search engine optimization. You want to be able to pay that and not stress about it. So you have to pay for some ads. You have to have a good owner's salary. You want to eventually get someone in the office, right? And if you already have people in the office, if you're a bigger company, you're watching this, you have to account for this in your jobs. So typical overhead's 30%. That took us down to 18%. And most people miss this. They don't put their true cost in there. And if they do, they don't have all of them in there. And if they don't go down their profit and loss, like I showed you in the other Know Your Numbers videos, they have things that they're paying for, that old software subscriptions, all kinds of just random things, buying too much materials and throwing them away in the trash. All of these random things you got to account for. Just doing that brought us down from what we thought we were making, $5,300, to $2,000. It's a big difference. This is why you work and say, I feel like I'm making money, but my bank account's not growing. Let me show you the second biggest reason why HVAC, plumbing, electrical loses money, doesn't realize it. What if people are paying by card and you don't put that in your price? You forgot, right? Consumer financing is 3%. Merchant fees, let's say we'll say 3%. Okay, $300 just came out. Now we're down to 15%. So we're not even making the $2,000 anymore, $1,675. What about homeowner financing? Are you offering financing to the homeowners? If you're not, you're probably losing an insane amount of money because most people want to have some kind of option for financing, right? It's where you lose a lot of your jobs. If you're not offering it, you're not mentioning it early, mentioning often, you're losing to the companies that are, okay? So let's say you're doing homeowner financing. What is your percentage? And has it crept up? I had a situation in my business where my consumer financing was 4.99%. I'm using Synchrony Bank. Sometimes I use Wells Fargo. Mine was right at 5%. Where I checked it recently because I was doing job costing, they actually creeped it up to 8% without notifying me. So how much was I losing? Because in my price, I was putting 5%. Boom. That's $550 taken out of this $11,000 job. That just jumped down to 10% now. Okay, that's 5%. But how much was it actually taking? Because I was actually paying 8%. Now we're at 7%. So you see what happens when you really do job costing? You really can see how much you're actually making. Because if I didn't put this in, I would think, oh, I made $5,300. When I put my overhead, oh, I'm making $2,000. That's fine. But then I just added two things, homeowner financing and merchant fees. This doesn't even count if the guys are taking too long to do the job. What if they're taking insanely long? What if instead of 5 hours, they're taking 10 hours? We just jumped to 5% just because they added 5 more hours. That extra 2% just from 5 hours each on a job, it adds up to a lot of money at the end of the year. You have to pour down your profit and loss statement and look at your overhead and see how much your overhead actually is. Now, let's say I go in and say, man, I'm only making 5% on jobs. Let me cut some of this stuff. Let me cut some of these softwares. Let me get my inventory tighter. Let me cut a lot of stuff out of my budget and get my overhead down to 25%. Boom. Did you see that? I just jumped from 5% to 10% just by cutting my overhead 5%. What if I get a better process and instead of doing it in 10 hours, I'm doing it in 5 hours again? Boom, 12%. You see how these small things can change the game completely? This is job costing. And this is how powerful it is. I like to job cost every single big job. And I look at the receipts because I'm going to notice if one of my prices from one of my suppliers crept up, I'm going to know today. I'm not going to know in 3 months. I'm not going to know in 2 months. I'm going to know today because I'm job costing. And I'm checking my prices because you don't have to do this retroactively after the jobs happen. You can plug in example jobs. You can call your supply house, get a price list of your equipment, and then plug these in, do your pricing, plug them in, and say like, whoa, if I do this next month, I'm only going to make 10%. So let me go in and fix some stuff so that you're changing your percentage in the future. You're not looking at the past and saying, okay, man, I wish I would have known. So job costing, here are the things. Number one, make sure you're doing your overhead in the job costing, all of your costs. And number two, go ahead and do it proactively. Do it often. I hope you learned something from this. If you're interested in this pricing tool that I use or the Know Your Numbers course, just leave a comment or go to the discovery call if you want to talk to me and join the business program where we do one-on-ones. We have a group community where I teach this and you can have other business owners. We can share information back and forth. I will put that link in the description. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.